1978, NBC aired Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, a made-for-television movie starring the rock band Kiss. Pitched as A Hard Day's Night meets Star Wars, the film, at best, could be described as a cult classic. We are now at the film's 45th anniversary, so let's take a look back at one of the most infamous chapters of Kisstory, one which the band probably wishes we'd all forget. During the early days of television, movie studios were reluctant to have their movies broadcast. So what would be shown were low-budget black and white B movies, things not playing in theaters anymore. This changed with the debut of NBC's Saturday Night at the Movies. Debuting in 1961 with the broadcast of the 1953 film How to Marry a Millionaire, this was a weekly series that aired a movie every Saturday. NBC had purchased 31 post-1950 movies from 20th Century Fox. The success of this led to the other networks of the time like ABC and CBS to also start showing movies during various days of the week. The amount of these shows meant there really weren't enough movies to go around, which caused a need to produce new movies specifically for television. NBC started this with the 1964 movie See How They Run. So NBC was looking for a TV movie of the week and had a deal with Hanna-Barbera, the studio behind animated shows like Scooby-Doo. They approached Kiss's manager at the time, Bill Aucoin, with the idea of doing a movie likely based on the Marvel comic Kiss had done in 1977. Aucoin said, Hanna-Barbera got a deal to do a certain amount of movies of the week for NBC. Our agent at ATI, Jeff Franklin, had heard about it. He called me and said, what do you think? I said, yeah, we could probably do it. It made sense. We were thinking that way anyway, to do something in film. Whether it was an animated thing or not, we weren't sure. This would give us an opportunity to see exactly where the guys are in the sense of acting, whether or not it could be pulled off. Kiss was at its zenith of popularity at the time with a string of platinum albums, a lucrative merchandising empire, and the aforementioned Marvel comic. Moving into movies as the Beatles had done likely seemed logical. Jan Michael Sherman and Don Boudet were brought on to write the screenplay. They had one prior credit to the movie, 1977's Too Hot to Handle. However, they also had written a script about Motown that never got made, but is what got them hired. Sherman said, we got the gig through somebody at our agency who knew Ron Roth. Someone called and said they were looking for rock and roll guys who were writers. We, Dan and I, had written a script together which was a black-oriented R&B movie. That was sort of our version of the Motown story. Instead of Berry Gordy, we had Tripper Dupre, who was a street hustler. We write the thing and it got optioned a half dozen times. It never got made. It got us our agent. That's how we got it. It was through that script. They wrote the script in a couple of weeks and sent it to the band. Once Kiss had the script, they were largely fine with it, except for lead guitarist Ace Frehley, who didn't have any lines. The two writers had flown out to hang out with the band and get a sense of their personalities and how they talked. Kiss bassist Gene Simmons said, Ace in those days was non-communicative. He didn't say much. No matter what you said to him, he would make this parrot sound. Nobody understood it. When the script came in, Ace's character never spoke. He only said, Ace was furious. He wanted to know why they didn't give him any lines. When I first saw the script, I didn't know what to think, Frehley said. Was it a joke? If so, I didn't find it particularly amusing. The script was rewritten to give Frehley dialogue. Gordon Hessler was brought on to direct. His debut feature was The Woman Who Wouldn't Die in 1965. He would work on genre movies throughout the 60s and 70s, doing quite a bit of TV movie work. Hessler said, I had to take it. I was taking everything. All I know is I received a telephone call. I didn't know any of the group's history. But you couldn't take the script seriously, Hessler also said. It was written by two young fellows who were very talented, but you couldn't do the effects. There was no physical way of doing the effects that they had in the original script. I wouldn't know how to do it. Certainly not in 3 weeks. So you compromise it all the way down to the line. Neither writer was happy with Hessler's work. Sherman felt they should have gotten a comedy director. At the time, we were a little annoyed, and that's putting it mildly, that they didn't hire A, comedy director, and B, an American comedy director who understood the nuances of the vernacular. Boudet said, the way they shot things was kind of wooden, I felt. Also, they shot a lot of this in daytime. They didn't shoot day for night, and it wasn't spooky enough. A lot of the scenes take place in the daytime, and I thought it lost a lot of the sinisterism of it all. Well, Day for Night looks terrible, producer Terry Morse said. What do writers know about that? You shoot during the day and you can see the sky, mountains in the distance. You don't see that at night. You only see what you light at night. So Day for Night wouldn't have worked. Hessler said, "To shoot day for night, you have to have some clouds. You can't just shoot into the blue." The story sees Kiss coming to an amusement park to play 3 concerts. The park's resident mad scientist, Abner Devereaux, is pissed that his research and development funds have been given to not only the Kiss concerts themselves, but also the promotion of said concerts. He vows revenge against the park and Kiss, his ultimate plan being to create robot duplicates of Kiss who will replace them on stage at the final show. Once there, evil robot Kiss will sing the wrong lyrics to Hotter Than Hell, which will cause a riot that will destroy the park. Martin Scorsese wept at the cinema on display here. "We read the script and we said, what is this about? We couldn't figure it out," said art director James Husley, whose credits included the 1970s Wonder Woman TV show. "Well, it's not really horror, is it?" said Hessler. "It's a camp script. You can't take it seriously. In a horror picture, you have to have real horror. People being buried alive, a divisive nature of a villain. That's really horror. But Kiss was for kids, for 14-year-olds in my mind. That's where they were at." Kiss drummer Peter Criss said, "It was the lamest thing I could have imagined. Why should I have powers to levitate things with my hands? What did any of this have to do with rock and roll? Our fans were going to think that we were pansies. I became a drummer in a rock and roll band because I was a rebel. Now we were just buffoons. All of a sudden we're doing slapstick?" Production was not easy. The members of Kiss were obviously not actors. Often someone off camera would feed them their lines, and if they said it without screwing it up, that was the take and they moved on. Hessler said there was a bit of risk in the whole thing, but it was the sort of risk you would take. But the execution should have been on a higher level. It was limited as you have 4 people that cannot act. Nobody in the band had the slightest clue about acting. None of us read the script. We didn't care, Kiss rhythm guitarist and frontman Paul Stanley said. "When we started filming, it didn't take an expert in the field to know we were in deep shit and there was no getting out of it. The director asked us after each take whether we thought it was good. We had no idea what we were doing. For us, a good take was one where we didn't blow our lines. If we said the right words, we moved on to the next shot. It was horrific. It didn't remotely resemble acting."
He's convinced you did it, but the investigation's a stroke. He just wants the guy off his back. He's sweating the possibility that we might pull out. He's just plain sweating.
The band was also very much at odds at this point. Criss and Fraley were not in love with the idea of the project and were miserable. They would both stay up all night partying and then have to get up around 5 or 6 in the morning only to wait around, as that's part of the movie-making process. Aucoin said, "Peter and Ace were really getting frustrated. They did not want to hang around to do this. You get to make up at 8 in the morning and you'd wait for 4 hours. You do 5 minutes of filming, setup, and you wait, and that's how movies are made. And that's the way it is." That just drove Ace and Peter crazy. Peter especially, but Ace too. A model Criss would marry 2 years later, Deborah Jensen, visited him on the set. "Deb coming to the set spelled doom for the film," Criss said. "I had to be on set every day at 6 in the morning, and we would stay up all night and fuck and do blow until 5 when I got the call that the car was outside waiting for me. Deb had just turned 20, so she could take it, but I was in my 30s. The later we stayed up fucking and drugging, the more I forgot my lines and started slurring my words. And the more I did that and pissed off the director, the more I hated being there." Fraley said, "We each had our own trailer to hang in. I filled my fridge with cold beer and champagne, and since there was a lot of downtime, I indulged in the white powder frequently and followed up with whatever was handy. There were times when Criss and Fraley would just leave the set." While filming bits of the concert sequence, Criss said, "I just flipped out. I took my sticks and threw them into the drums and stormed off in my limo. They had to get some middle-aged stagehand to throw on one of my costumes and sit in my seat. When we were on stage, I turned around and saw some random old man in cat makeup and a wig playing the drums and chewing gum. Peter had taken off, and they threw this guy up there." On a separate occasion, Fraley said, "I went back into my trailer, quickly washed off my makeup and changed into regular clothes, snorted a couple of lines and washed it down with the cold one, and then jumped into my Mercedes. I didn't learn until much later, when I saw the movie for the first time, that filming had gone on without me that day. Under the best of circumstances, the whole thing would have looked silly, but the director had enlisted the services of my stunt double to finish the remaining shots in the scene. My double was a black man. He didn't look anything like me facially, and even with all the makeup on, it was painfully obvious." Additionally, Criss's voice was not used in the film. Voice actor Michael Bell overdubbed all of Chris's lines.
We don't work with a second act, Devereaux. Besides, Armageddon is a lame group.
Producer Terry Morse said, a lot of his stuff was unusable. You couldn't hear it, you couldn't understand it. After finishing the movie, a screening was held. The band was incredibly embarrassed by the movie, to the point that supposedly no one working for the band could mention the movie in the band's presence. When the movie was finished, we saw it at a screening. If you thought it was bad on a TV screen, you should have seen it on the big screen. People openly laughed. I slunk down in my seat. It was humiliating. Fraley said, the whole thing was a goof. If you take it in that light, it's okay. Almost like a Saturday morning kids show or a Japanese sci-fi flick. Come on, who doesn't like Mothra and Rodan? The movie premiered on NBC on October 28, 1978, to great ratings, according to Simmons. Overseas, a different edit of the movie was released theatrically. This version was called Kiss and Attack of the Phantoms. The scenes are in a slightly different order, with some scenes added back in that had been cut. A lot of Fraley's one-liners were cut for this theatrical version. The biggest change was the music. The TV version features kind of stock cartoon music. The theatrical version replaced this with songs from the Kiss solo albums that had been released in September 1978. The songs are Radioactive, Man of a Thousand Faces, and Mr. Make-Believe from Simmons' album, Hold Me, Touch Me, Think of Me When We're Apart, and Love in Chains from Stanley's album, Easy Thing, That's the Kind of Sugar Papa Likes, and Hooked on Rock and Roll from Chris's album, and Fractured Mirror and New York Groove from Fraley's. Some people prefer the TV cut, some people prefer the theatrical. I usually go for the theatrical because of the music, the stuff from the solo albums. But I do think there were some odd editing choices for that one. The TV version was released on VHS in the 80s, followed by a Laserdisc in 1991. The only DVD release was the theatrical cut as part of the Kissology Volume 2 set, released in 2007. Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park has a special place among Kiss fans, and maybe lovers of bad movies. Is it a transformative work of art? Did it revolutionize the film industry? No. But I watched it constantly as a kid, and as an adult, I watch it every October. It's a Halloween staple, and I imagine I'm not alone in that. And for a 45-year-old movie about a rock band fighting robots, that's not too bad.